Hello everyone, welcome back to the workshop. I hope you're all well. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Oxfordshire. Perfect day for some Bantics. We're back on with the D7. We're going to be doing the front end, front wheel, front forks. We're going to dig into them and see what grot and grime we can find. No doubt we'll find something. See what we need to do to make it all serviceable again. Right, let's get on and do some work. Okay, we're getting on with the front end, and before we remove the forks we have to remove the front wheel and the mudguard, and you can see the mudguard's loose. I've already removed the stays and it's just sort of trapped in there by the front wheel now. So I'm going to bring you a little bit closer in and we'll get the front wheel removed. Right, I've removed the brake cable already, and I'm noticing quite a bit of corrosion down here. Let me just get down here to eye level. We've got quite a lot of rust on the brake stay nut here. This lower clamp is quite rusty, as are the two bolts that go into it. And when I removed the brake cable, that was quite crusty as well coming out. So I don't know where this bike's been stored, but I would say the front end definitely has been somewhere damp, so possibly a shed or somewhere like that. I also noticed there was a metric bolt in the brake clevis. It wasn't a proper clevis bolt, it was just a fully threaded set screw really. And the hole in this brake arm looks quite worn, so we may have to do something with that. We may have to replace it. But anyway, I've loosened off the brake stay, the torque stay nut, and we just got to get the axle clamp bolts out now. So we'll do that. I gave them a bit of a spray up with maintenance spray, just in case we had any clingy rust. It's coming out. Oh yeah, I don't know if you can see that. Have a look at the camera. There we go. Somewhat rusty. There you go. Let's get the other one. That'll come out by hand. Not quite. There we go. Liberated. Yeah, a little bit crusty. That's going to need a dose of looking at and a good clean up. Right, do the other side. There we go. Let's do that side. See if we can drop the wheel out. Let me just move you back a little bit. There we go, I think you can see there. This side looks cleaner. Still feels a bit tight. Yeah, there's a little bit of rust on the end of that thread there. Oh, better support the wheel really, haven't I? Otherwise it's going to fall out when we take this one out. Here we go. Excuse the customary shaky camera work. don't have a lot of room in here, so it's quite difficult sometimes. What are you seeing there? You're seeing me in the way, aren't you? It's difficult to get the camera angle sometimes. There we go. One wheel. Let's move that out of the way. Hopefully we can just squeeze the mud guard. Yep, there we go. Lower it out of the way. Right, just going to put that to one side. And we should go over to the bench and take a look at this wheel. See what we're dealing with. Well, I thought we'd have a look at the wheel before we move on to the forks and have a look at the brakes and the bearings. And the bearings do feel as though they can probably do with a little bit of love. I've just got it mounted in the vise there, just clamped on the non-brake side of the spindle, and that's it's quite a convenient way to work on it. Obviously, the limitations of the sturdiness in inverted commas of my bench, but it's perfectly adequate. So we'll take the brake drum off and have a look inside. And obviously the tyre here is well, it's an original Dunlop. I think it's probably been on there, well, if not since new, certainly since the 1960s. It's in a bit of a state, some sidewall cracks there, and yeah, definitely needs replacing. So right, let's get the brake drum off. I'm just going to use my my trusty big adjustable, and if you're wondering, BSA service sheet 515 is the one that refers to the front hub and brakes on a D7. That wasn't too tight. Off it comes. Now I think I need to have the vacuum cleaner on hot standby, because I don't know how, when the last time this brake drum was off, and the linings could well contain something nasty. So let me just grab the vacuum cleaner. Okay, we're ready to cope with anything we might find. So let's have a look at these brake linings. And they actually look as though they've probably been changed in living memory. So I think the chances of them containing asbestos is fairly remote. They're certainly not genuine ones. There's no rivet holes in the brake shoes. So they've been bonded shoes all of their life. There's the usual grease seeping out of the bearing. Hopefully it's not got onto the brake drum like it did on the rear wheel, but we'll make sure we degrease it very well just to be on the safe side. So I'm just going to give that a quick vacuum out. I will switch you off because you don't need to hear that noise, just to make sure that there's no nasty particles, and then we'll have a look at the brake drum. Right, I'm just removing the grease from the bearing retainer. There's definitely some grease down in the bottom part of the drum here, and you might just be able to see it shining up on the edge of the brake shoe there. There's a little bit of grease on there, but I don't think it's on the face of the linings, and I'd be surprised if it had got onto here. It looked pretty dry. But we will do the same process as we did with the rear wheel. We'll degrease it with fire and just make sure that we sweat anything out of there that might be in there. Now, for the life of me, I cannot find anywhere data relating to the maximum diameter of brake drums on these bikes. I've been through every Bantam publication that I've got. I've got all the service sheets, and I've got books by independent non-factory authors as well, and I can't find anything. this drum doesn't look terrible. It's a little bit rusty. I can't feel any sort of major grooves or anything in there. But I think what we'll do to make sure that we have a good front brake, because obviously, you know, modern day traffic and all the rest of it, and Bantam brakes not being noted for their prowess, shall we say, we want to try and make the front brake as good as we can. What I think I'll do is get the these shoes relined by Villiers Services, and we'll get them oversized and probably machine them back to fit our drum. And that way we know that when we apply the brake, we're getting full contact and we're getting minimum, you know, minimum play in our brake. For those of you who are not familiar, or perhaps not in the UK, Villiers Services are a company in the UK that, well, by their name, they supply replacement parts for Villiers engines, but they also have a brake relining service, and I've heard very good things about their lining material that they use is very well suited for British bikes, and Ada AG Engineering recently used them, and I think he's very pleased with the service. So I think that will be the plan: get them relined and then machine them to suit our drum. Right, the next job is to get the bearings out. And it does look as though someone has been, just get that bit of tissue out of there, someone has been using a hammer and a punch instead of a peg spanner to tighten or remove the bearing retainer. So I think we're going to have to dress these holes up before we can use the correct tool. So let me just go and get some bits together and we will do that. Right, I've got some tools together, and here's my peg spanner for taking these things out. And the holes in this, the pins in this rather, are 4mm, and that's a little bit big for these. But the fact that these things have been basically chiseled and punched to within an inch of their life means I have no qualms whatsoever of drilling these things out to 4mm to accept my peg spanner. And that'll clean the holes up, and obviously we'll be able to get it out. And we'll then assess whether or not it will be going back, or whether we'll be getting another one. So I'm going to use a straight drill because I've not used it for a while and I like it. You don't need to, you could use a pistol drill or battery drill, whatever you want to use really. But I'm already going deep enough to get the pegs to engage, so really need a swivel on top of here. That's what I would normally use on one of these. Right, that should do it. Let me just get the do-for-do, the blowgun. We'll get rid of some of these chips. And it's all going to come to bits anyway, so it'll all get cleaned out. Right, now there's a left-hand thread. It says LH on there. That's a bit of a giveaway, isn't it, really? So let's see if we can get this thing out. Oh, wow. I really have tightened it up. Oh, blimey, that took some doing. That took some doing. There we go. It is coming out. There we go. And the threads are good, so that's always a good sign. There we go. And I think with a bit of dressing up and take the bears off that, that will go again. And nothing wrong with it other than the fact that the original holes have been slotted. Literally slotted. and there's some nasty burrs on there, so we'll get rid of those, and it will ride again. Now, what I think I'm going to do, while I've got it like this and before I take the spindle out, is remove the tyre, because, let me just zoom you out a little bit, 1 second. Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea to remove the tyre now while I've got it like this, because it's kind of like a tyre removing stand, isn't it? And if I take the spindle out, I'll have to get down on the floor and wrestle around with it, and I don't really want to do that. So let's get some bits together and remove the tyre. Well, as you can see, it is coming. You can see the cracks in the sidewall here. It's really crusty. It really doesn't want to come off. It's been on there for a long time, and I think it obviously thought this was going to be its final resting place, but we've got other ideas, so I shall keep persevering and just keep at it, see where it gets us. There we go, it's starting to come now. This was definitely easier, doing it with the spindle in and using the vise. Don't normally film myself doing anything to do with tyres because, yeah, I don't like that guy. I don't like that guy that does tyres. There we go, we'll get the tube out and get the tube out, and we'll do the other bead, get the other bead over, and that's the tyre gone. But I want to let the air out. Ugh. I don't know how long it had been in there, but this place smelled like Billingsgate on a hot August day. The tube's a bit stuck as well. There we go. Wind out. Give it a clout. Let's have a look at the tube. Oh, it's got a patch on it. I suppose we could expect that for probably about 60 years old. Dunlop Air Seal motorcycle. Wow. What's the chances of that being the original tube? Or certainly, well, the fact that it's patched makes me think it probably is the original tube. Very possibly. It doesn't look too bad for its 60 years of service, anyway. I'll crack on, I'll get the tyre off, and we'll have a look at getting the wheel bearings and the wheel spindle out. Right, it is off. The rim is, when the bench stops wobbling, the rim is reasonably true. A little bit of a kick where the weld is, I think, but that's about it. Let's have a look at the well. Bit of rust about it. Oh, you can't see very well there, can you? The light's not terribly good, is it? Is that any better? Yeah, you can see that the well's quite rusted. Nothing that a wire brush won't clean up, I don't think. It's not terrible. I've seen worse. The rim tape is, as expected, a little bit worse for wear, but we'll change that anyway. Just back in here for a second. And pull the rim tape out. We can have a look at the spoke land. I snapped in half anyway, let the rim tape come clean in two. A bit stuck to the wheel rim, we'll have to scrape that out, but yeah, definitely seen better days. I have to say the front tyre wasn't as difficult as the rear one to get off, but still, definitely overdue, I would say. Okay, so we can concentrate on getting the wheel bearings out, and then the rim will get cleaned up. We'll get new bearings for it. We'll get the brake lining sent away once we've cleaned this up and measured it, and then we'll go back to the bike and do the forks. So I'll just grab some more bits and bobs and we'll drive out that spindle. Right, let's get this spindle knocked out. You can see there like an open bearing. That's where all the grease has come from, just like on the rear wheel. So I think I mentioned before we won't be putting an open bearing back in. You probably wonder why I keep disappearing off to get tools. I'm just trying to keep the bench a little bit clearer, so we don't get lots of tools building up and lots of clutter. So I'm putting things away and getting things out as I need them. Right, so we should be able to drive out the spindle and the brake side bearing. So let's do that. Can you see what I'm doing? You can, good. There we go. Not too painful. Oh, lots of grease. Lots of grease. Someone's completely filled the spindle cavity with grease. So it's very lubricated, shall we say. We get some blue roll to put that on. There we go, we'll put that down there. And then on the other side, we've got a circlip, and we should be able to knock the bearing out this way. So let's get that circlip out. Make sure you can still see what's going on. Unlike when I was using the straight drill and all you could see was the airline, I do apologise. So I've got my new small circlip plier set that I bought when I was with Aid at the Stafford show back in April. Might need a little screwdriver actually just to help me guide that out. There we go, that'll do the job. Oh, you can. There we go. Okay, just got to clean some of that grease out of the space between the bearings. Just drag some of that out of there before we knock the bearing out. It's already getting everywhere, but we can try to contain it a little bit. Get some more of that tissue. Yeah, it's gone everywhere. Right. Okay, I think I'm going to move the camera and lie this flat on the bench. It's probably the best way to do it. So stand by. I'll get you moved. Right, I've turned you around. You're now on the magnetic mount on the vise, so you're pointing the other direction now. On a couple of blocks of wood there, just to make sure we don't damage the spokes. And I've got a piece of scrap bar stock out of the scrap bin, and we're just going to drive through with this bearing, and hopefully will come out. Lots of grease going everywhere. See if I can get a bit more of that grease out before we go any further. Alright, I've got some more of the grease out, it's a bit less splattery now, hopefully, and I've had a bit of a change of plan as well. I've got this much stouter piece of bar and a bigger hammer, so hopefully we won't have to hit it as many times. I'm a bit concerned that it's not very well supported on those pieces of wood. So anyway, let's give this a try. There we go. Gone. There she was, gone. Right. That can go back in scrap metal, or the useful bits of metal. As can that. Brilliant. Right, let's get the wheel out of the way. That's going to have a good wash. And I've got a bearing and a cover plate. That bearing looks like it's been replaced at some point because it's shielded. Ah, made in China. There you go. It has been changed at some point. '6202. Fairly popular bearing size. It doesn't feel bad, but I think we'll be putting our favourite brand of bearings back anyway, so it'll be getting changed. Right, I'll get everything cleaned up. We'll get the parts washed off, and then we'll come back and have a look at them, see what needs to be replaced and what can stay. Back soon. Right, we've moved on a couple of days since I stripped down the wheel, and everything's been through the parts washer, been dried off, and I've had a look at it. Everything seems to be fairly good, really. Nothing that a wire brush won't fix. There's the spindle, and there's no sort of damage to the thread, or you know, it doesn't look as though anybody's had a hammer to it, which is always good. The pivot turns nice and freely in the back plate. A little bit of play, but I don't think it's excessive. And yeah, generally reasonably good. This piece, the bearing retainer, once I'd removed the burrs from it, took all the nasty sharp edges off, it was fine, so we'll put that back. And the added bonus is that it now fits my peg spanner because I've drilled the holes out. The thread's fine, so yeah, just needs a bit of a clean, really. The axle clamps, bit of surface rust, but nothing too bad. No serious wear marks or anything like that. We're probably going to reuse these springs for the brake shoes because we're going to get the shoes relined. But I've got no problem putting these back. None of the coils are spread or anything like that. They're not heavily corroded. So again, quick go on the wire wheel, and they should be all right. These are the linings here, the brake shoes. They don't look very old, to be honest with you. I think someone's replaced them and possibly not got the brake that they were hoping for because the drum is a little bit worn. I've had another look through the publications. I can't find anything on maximum wear limits or anything like that, so we're just going to get the shoes relined and see how we get on. And if I just put the technical notebook in front of you here, I'm hoping you can read it. I've done some measurements. So the diameter of the shoes when fitted to the back plate is 137.24 millimeters. The drum was coming in a shade over 139, and the lining's 4.5 millimeters thick. So if we take one diameter from the other, we get a deficit of 1.77. Put that over 2, because we've got 2 brake shoes, and we get 0.885. So we need to be 5.385 or greater to stand any chance of success. Now, I don't think that Villiers service will will give me a set of shoes at 5.385, but they might give me 5.5, so we'll be able to machine them back. And that, you know, that 5.385, that puts us in contact with the drum. So anything greater than that, we can machine back, and you know, just give ourselves a minimum amount of clearance on the brake drum, so that the brake linings are basically just hugging the brake drum, but not grabbing, and that hopefully will give us a decent brake. So I'm going to speak to them tomorrow, today being Sunday, so I'll get them on the phone tomorrow, just make sure that they can do what I want them to do, and then we'll box up these old shoes, send them off, and hopefully within a week or so we'll get them back all nice and shiny with new linings on. So that's pretty much it really for the wheel components. The wheel itself, let me just hove that into view. I don't know if you can see inside the drum. Let me just get behind the camera and see if I can get you a view. Yeah, you can just about see there. There's no sort of major scoring or anything like that. There was a little bit of corrosion, but that's just from being stud. Yeah, it's a fairly decent running surface, good enough at least. So yeah, hopefully we'll have a winner when we get our new linings. And there wasn't any grease in it. I washed it out in the parts washer, and I couldn't detect any grease at all. So I'm not going to do the heat treatment. I don't think, the flame treatment rather. I don't think it's necessary. Anyway, so that's the wheel and the brake. So we need to move on to splitting down the forks. We'll go and do that now. Right, we're going to strip down these forks, and it's rather warm in the workshop. We've been having some fine weather here in the south of England, tempered with thunderstorms in the evenings, but you know, on balance, nice weather, but it is very warm in here. I am partially insulated in this workshop, so not as hot as it could be, but let's get on and get these forks apart. So the first thing to do is to whip out the chrome top cap. Oh, how it comes. It's got a little hole in it. There you go. So that you can get a pin punch or a screwdriver in there. It's kind of springy. It's chrome plated steel. That would be plastic on a modern machine, wouldn't it? But not on the BSA. Made of metal. The next thing to do is to remove the nut that's inside this outer nut, the nut that holds the stanchion in. You've got a nut inside there that secures the spring rod, and the gap isn't very big, so you'll probably have to turn down or grind down a socket. I turned that one down on the lathe, and that is a 7/16 AF. So you just turn it down until it fits, or grind it down. And that was hand tight, so that's a good omen, because everything that's been hand tight on this bike so far has been knackered. So we'll see what we... that comes out, if I can get it out of the socket. Hang on. There we go. Stop clowning around. Get the thing out. There should be a washer in there as well, but we'll probably be able to retain that once we've pulled the fork lower down. So let me just move the camera because you won't be able to see this bit otherwise. Okay, so that's the top nut removed, and the next thing we need to do is pull the fork lower down as far as it will go, and hopefully it won't come right off the end. If it doesn't come right off the end, it means you've actually got some fork internals. So there we go. So that's pulled all the way down. You see there's the slider. You pull it, let it go down the stanchion as far as it will go, and then the spring rod should have disappeared up top. So let's have a look at that. Right, there we go. You can see that the damper rod, or the spring rod, is completely gone. It's halfway down the fork leg. So we can now remove this top nut here. The biggest socket I've got in the Whitworth range is 9/16. It's not big enough, but I've got an 1.1/8" AF, and it's close enough for government work. So hopefully, if the other thing was hand tight, this won't be grolled right up. But knowing my luck, it will be it'll be put on with an impact gun or something. Anyway, let's give it a go. No, it was nipped up, but it wasn't tight. So that comes out, and it's special tool time. So let me grab the special tool. There you go. That is the universal stanchion tool for BSAs. Basically, it's used to break the taper and to pull the stanchion back into the taper. It's not like on the Japanese bikes where you have a parallel stanchion running into a clamped top yoke. There's actually a taper, and it sits inside that taper and is pulled up by the nut that we just removed. So I'll get this thing screwed in. I will undo the clamp bolt a little bit lower down, which is very much like the Japanese style yokes where you've got the clamp up yoke with a bolt through it. I'll get that undone, and then we'll tap this stanchion out. Well, I've just gone around and checked that everything is loose and everything is ready to go. Always a wise move before you start clouting things. So I'm just going to give this a tap with the dead blow now, and hopefully it will move. I've got hold of the fork at the bottom so it doesn't fire into the concrete. There we go. So I will remove the special tool and we'll withdraw the fork leg. There you go, that's what was inside the fork leg. So, oh, that bodes well, doesn't it? That bodes well for things to come. Anyway, we're just going to have to see what happens. So hopefully this bad boy will come out, and it has done. There we go. That's our fork removed. So I shall go and put that on the bench. I shall rinse and repeat on the other side, and we'll go and have a look at the condition of these forks and strip them down further on the bench. Okay, so the fork is in the vise on the bench, and we're going to have a go at stripping it down. There's no spring action at the moment because there's no top nut fitted, so the spring just pops out the top of the stanchion. They do feel quite notchy. I don't know what condition they're going to be in when we get them apart, but we do know there's no oil in there, so that could have been, you know, the case for quite some time. I don't have the special tool for removing the oil seal holder. It's basically a tubular peg spanner that engages with these notches. I will make one before the end of this job. I'm going to measure the sizes here, and I'll measure the size of the oil seal holder on the heavyweight forks that I have for the D5 project, and I'll probably make a dual universal tool that fits both. So I'm just going to have a go with strap wrench to start with. Hopefully we won't have to use anything more forceful than this, because I don't want to damage the seal holders. So let's just get this set up and see how we get on. It's a good quality strap wrench. This one's made in Germany, so hopefully should be a good one. Oh, there we go, it has gone. Let's just pull that out of the way, and then I don't think we're in any danger of getting any oil spill, so I'm just going to crack on and not worry about it. BSA service sheet 516 is your reference if you've got access to them for doing the forks, and it also covers the steering head bearings. There we go. So pull that out of there. It does feel as though there is a seal in there, which there is, but it's pretty manky. Just get that into view. You can see how small the sealing surface is, and small wonder really why they're not the most oil tight forks in the world. But anyway, there is a seal there, and we'll pull out the stanchion and the bushes. So there's the top bush. See, it's a split bush. Doesn't look in terrible condition, but we'll probably change it anyway. The earlier forks had a circlip, I believe, that retained the upper bush, but these later forks, I think it's the post 1965 forks, don't have the circlip. Don't quote me on that because I might be wrong, but I think it's 65 was the cut-off date. Anyway, we can pull that bush off, and then the stanchion will come out over the spring. And then there's the lower bush. See, there's some, I can't remember, this must have been the fork that we got a little bit of oil out of, tiny little drop, because there is a little bit of oil on there. It looks as though it might have just been put on with an oil can, but and there's the split, and you basically force that split apart and then the bush will come off, but we'll do that in a minute. and then the spring, you just unwind it. You unscrew it rather, because there's a holder at the bottom that threads onto a stud, that threads into a bore rather. There we go. So there's the spring. A little bit of surface rust on it, but it doesn't look terrible. I think it'll clean up. Consequence of not had any or hardly any lubricating oil. Get that better into focus for you. Yeah, most of it seems to be rubbing off. I think with oil and a bit of Scotch-Brite that'll come up. So there's the spring removed. And that's pretty much it, really. I already took the drain plug out, or the makeshift drain plugs. Those fibre washers look like they've been on there for quite some time. And obviously we're going to have a really good clean inside there. You can just about make out the threaded bore at the bottom for the spring holder. Get it in the right place. There we go. So we'll remove the lower bush, and then I'll get everything cleaned up. Bring you back. Let me just move the camera 1 second so that you can see what I'm about to do. Here we go, going on an adventure. Helps if I've got both hands on the job. There we go. Move it so you can see the vise. There we go, that should be good. And we'll just grip the stanchion. And just, can you see what we're doing? Yes, you can. Just open up this little gap. There we go. That's all it takes. And then there we go, it's on the move. That's it. Get into focus. Again, it doesn't look terrible, so we'll get everything cleaned up, see where we are. If we need to replace them, they are available, so that's not too much of an issue. Okay, time to get everything cleaned up, and then we'll come back and have a look at the parts. Right, here we are. All the parts we've been dealing with have now been through the parts washer and cleaned up, and I've had a good look at them, and on the whole, not too bad. There's a few bits and pieces that need attention. Mostly cleaning. We just need to get the corrosion off these bits with the wire wheel, just so that they go back together nice and easily. But no sort of real major damage. The stanchions have seen a bit. They've had better days really, but I'm going to put them back and just see how we get on. I've got the rust off them. I've given them a light phosphate surface conversion just to kill off the rust. I've done the same with the springs. Didn't go for any sort of acid dips or anything like that, because these are high quality components, and the higher the sort of grade of steel, the more prone to hydrogen embrittlement you get. We don't want that in a safety critical part, so I would advise against dipping anything like springs or wheel spindles or anything like that in your acid rust removers, unless you're going to carry out the oven treatment afterwards to eradicate the hydrogen. Some of my viewers have actually asked me if I do a video on that kind of thing, the metallurgical processes and the failure analysis, the stuff that I deal with in my day job, and I'm quite happy to do that. I just need to figure out how to talk over sort of slides and things like that. Once I've figured that out on the old video, I'll put something together. But yeah, the forks are going to go back together pretty much as they are. We're going to change the seals. As you can see, I wonder why they leak. Modern seals are probably 10 times the surface, but we'll get a set of those, see how we get on. That is pretty much it, really. I was hoping to get the steering head bearings out in this video, but I'm conscious of the time getting on, so we'll do that next time around. So thanks very much indeed for watching. To all my subscribers, thank you very much indeed. It is very much appreciated. If you're watching, you like what we're doing, and you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and I can promise you more videos, more Bantics, and whatever else comes in through the workshop door. We'll spend some time in the workshop, we'll have some fun. But thanks very much, and until next time, take care of yourselves. Bye for now.